My guest today is from a very beautiful mountainous country in Central Asia. Please join me in welcoming Mehdia Hassan from Afghanistan. Hello Mehdia, and thank you so much for being here. And you are my first Afghan guest. So I'm really looking forward to a chat, and I'm happy and delighted to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Mehdia, what brought you to Thunder Bay?
Well, the Masters in Social Justice program at Lakehead University is what really caught my attention, and the creative stream in particular was really interesting to me, and that's what really brought me to come here and visit Thunder Bay for the first time, and I realized how much I loved it, and just really captivated by the nature and the landscapes of northwestern Ontario.
So do we all, so do we all. Are you the only Afghani in Thunder Bay?
I believe I've met one or two Afghans here, but not many, no.
Do you get to meet them often, the students?
Yeah, they're mostly students, and no, not many Afghans I've met here before.
Have you had an opportunity to visit Afghanistan? What do you know? Can you share a little about your country? We're very happy to know about
that. Yeah, I have not ever visited Afghanistan before, but I would love to go back for sure and visit and see what my parents are always telling me about and describing in their amazing stories.
Wow.
So my parents, they both grew up around Kabul, the city of Kabul, and they went to school there. They have amazing memories there, and
wow.
So they immigrated here, and they have amazing memories that they tell me about going to movies, going to concerts before the war, going to picnics in the gardens, and that time of peace and stability that they always recall, and that time of where no one would really bother you the way you dressed, the way you looked, or it was that sense of security and safety. And yeah, I think right now though times are much different, and there's more decades of war, and there's generations that have only seen those wars, and including my generation. I think that's all I've ever heard about ever since growing up, and I think that Afghanistan and its people are very resilient and very strong people, and I think that I really admire how they're able to keep going every day with their own lives, and to be very appreciative of everything, and I just think that even though I've been born here and I grew up here, I'm still able to feel their pain every time I hear about a suicide bomb or an explosion. I still feel that pain, and I think that Afghans in the diaspora, they're always searching to be closer, and even though we're physically far away, we're always close in that sense that we want to be much closer and feel that connection to Afghanistan.
The youth, especially the youth who's never been to that country. Yeah, the war has really fragmented the nationalism and the community there. Yeah. Where exactly is Afghanistan?
Yes, so Afghanistan, it's often, its geographical shape is often referred to kind of like a closed fist, where it's
like a closed fist.
That's how growing up I was always learned how it's kind of like the shape of a closed fist.
Okay.
And then geographically, I think that's also indicated there in my painting as well. And so there's the Hindu Kush Mountains, and there's the amazing different mountains. There's the Pamiri Mountains, there's the Asmai, Khoya Asmai, there's Paghman Mountains in my painting over there. And there's so much cultural and linguistic diversity in Afghanistan that I'm always learning more about.
What's the language? What's the national language? And what do you speak?
Yeah, so ever since I was very young, I first learned Farsi, which is also called, the Afghan dialect is Dari, and so that's one of the national official languages of Afghanistan, and there's also Pashto, but there's also other languages that are spoken depending on the ethnic groups, more specific to the ethnic groups, such as Uzbeki, there's Turkmeni, there's Baluchi, there's Pamiri, there's Nuristani. There's so many languages, and I'm always so interested, and I wish I was able to even learn more, and I'm able to now speak Dari.
So it's multicultural and multi-ethnic because of the location of the country, landlocked, and has so many Central Asian countries as the neighbors. What does the name mean, Mehdia?
My name?
Yeah.
My name is Arabic and it means the rightly guided one, and my father named me, so I always think of him.
Yeah. So father has given you your name.
Yes.
And I love your dress.
Oh,
It's
thank
so
you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
What is it called?
So these are kalai Afghani, which are Afghan traditional dresses, and I'm wearing one of them. And they come in many different colors, many different designs, and depending on the region of Afghanistan or the ethnic groups. And so this one, I'm very lucky that my mom made me, and she actually kept this top part from many years ago, and she attached it to this dress. And
So the embroidery part of it.
yeah, yeah, and so she's really amazing. I'm so lucky, yeah.
Lucky, yeah. So when do you get to meet your parents for any special festivity or something?
Yeah, like and being like, so I wear the dress. We wear the dresses and like special like occasions, festivities, and you know, it's just me wearing this right now. It's just a very special feeling to
Yeah, you
really be
feel
able
your
to.
mom is with you.
Yes, yeah.
What kind of festivities do you all get together for?
So there's an upcoming festivity called Nowruz, which is the New Year.
Yeah.
It's celebrated by many Central Asian countries, and including Afghanistan. And so the name Nowruz means literally new day, and
New day.
and it usually falls on the first day of spring. And so in Afghanistan, there are many different festivities that are carried out, and there's a holiday, and there's like no school for the kids, and
we love that.
they celebrate, and we all celebrate, and there's different like foods that we prepare, such as afmewa, which
Now you got my attention completely. Oh yeah, tell us about the special cuisine of Afghanistan.
yeah, so the cuisine of Afghanistan is like one of my favorites. But like I always the spices that we use are really amazing, and there's different spices that we have, and there's different dishes. There's rice, a rice dish called kabuli palau, and so it has carrots and raisins in it, and there's usually lamb buried under inside the rice, and that's very delicious.
Wow.
And just getting hungry now.
What kind of special spices that you add to your palau?
Sometimes there's saffron added. Sometimes there's cardamom. Sometimes there's cumin added. Those spices as well. Yeah.
Yeah, those kind of spices we add too to our dishes. And I'm from India and South Asia, and I believe Afghanistan has got this influence from Asia, from the South Asia plus the Middle Eastern, because it was in the Silk Route.
Yeah, that's very interesting how that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with turmeric as well.
Turmeric as well. So it was
Yeah.
a Silk Route, it was a spice route, and how it all evolved with regards to trades.
That's true.
Spices
It's
and
true.
everything.
Yeah. I think it's in such a central position
Right.
for all of that trade and for everything in the exchange of goods.
Hold on to that mesmerizing and that flavorful thought. We will be right back. We will take a very, very short break, dear viewers. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, viewers. You're watching Asian Vibes, and my guest today is Mehdia Hassan. She's giving us a glimpse of this beautiful, beautiful country, Afghanistan. Mehdia, you were talking to us about your studies, the course that you've come here to do at Lakehead. Can you tell us a little bit more about the course?
Yeah, so I'm doing my master's now in social justice studies at Lakehead University, and I'm also interested in research in arts-based and integrated research, and how the health of communities can be improved with participation in visual arts methods. And I've done a lot of community work in Toronto as well, where the city I'm from, and really being able to get to do that kind of work here is really great. That really brought my attention.
Why did you choose social justice? Has that got any influence or
Yeah,
from where you are from?
I think health equity and just equity I've noticed is really deeply rooted in all the interests that I've had and all the work that I have done. I began to notice that social justice, I've demonstrated a really strong commitment to social justice with all of my work, and I feel really strongly about health equity especially, and how in marginalized communities how health can be improved and with different methods such as arts-based methods.
And are you planning to integrate some of your learnings from home into your current study or research?
Yeah, and just like my studies around like health and I have a background in health studies and psychology. I have an honors Bachelor of Science from the University of Toronto, and so that's kind of how I began to explore the connection between health and illness and with visual arts as well, and incorporating that into this program I think is really amazing. Awesome. That I get to do that here.
Yeah. And you talked of visual arts. Yeah, that's and I see you've got lots of beautiful paintings.
Thank you.
What made you, what drove you to pick painting as an art form to express or to reflect your not only your studies but also your roots?
Yeah, so painting, I've always been a creative person ever since I was very young. I think ever since, I just have very early memories of my mom and me and making crafts and making artwork together, and she was very encouraging and supportive of that, and I've always continued it and continued to cultivate my creativity in different ways, and through painting and visual arts is something I really enjoy, and being able to also think very critically through it. I think creativity and criticality go together very well, and I think through my creative explorations I'm also having engaging in very critical ideas and with critical thinking as well. And those critical thinking skills.
You mentioned about doing some artwork with your mom. What was it, painting, or were there other forms of?
Yeah, we were. I was very young, and she was always working with me and encouraging me and having my work up in my room, and yeah.
So you're in your initial stages of exploring with this art form, painting. Is it are you looking to explore more mediums and forms?
I have explored in the past as well, and I tend to lean towards more painting, but I'm always exploring, and I'm always very open to like different creative mediums, like such as sculpture, and I've done like ceramics. I did a few murals as well in my community, so I got to really explore a lot, and I really enjoy painting as well.
For a young person, you are an overachiever. and when you spoke about sculptures and the other forms, art forms, were there any special themes that you were trying to explore?
Yeah, so in my undergrad experience with the health studies, I got to explore healthcare and health and mental health through artworks. And one of my pieces was actually at the Health and Wellness Center at the U of T Scarborough. And so I got to explore that through those themes, but I've also explored identity and community and identity, and evident through these paintings as well. Just my Afghan Canadian identity, I think that I'm able to make a lot of sense of what that is and what it means to me through my paintings, and to think more critically about those ideas.
Yeah, it's so encouraging to see more and more artists coming to use their creativity and all these expressions of ideas for the wellness of people, for well-being, for health, for those kind of reasons. That's awesome.
And some artworks are more personal to me than other artworks, and some of them are like that connection just through the process of creating it. I think with my pieces, they're all very intentional with every brush stroke. I'm always very, like, every piece means something to me, and I think what's so, what I'm always touched and what's so special is that when others are able to relate to it and connect to it as well, it always really means a lot to me. It's extra special.
Yeah, you're telling stories as well.
Those narratives,
those narratives. And so you have explored all of this here in Thunder Bay while you're studying?
So these are the works that I've done when I was in Toronto. painting over here actually is the one I did for a graduate course last semester actually, so I did it quite recently. It's about like the sociology of the body, and it explores those kinds of ideas about embodiment and what does it mean to be a vulnerable person. And so I really connecting those ideas, and we were talking about commemorative tattoos and this book that we were reading called The Tattoo Project, and how commemorative tattoos meaningfully integrate love and loss, and the idea of good grief, and that really reminded me of my experiences and my Afghan Canadian identity, and how the inheritance of collective trauma, and what I was talking about earlier about like the Afghan identity and just like in the Afghan diaspora, and there's that sense of like collective trauma, even that's passed on from past generations and embodied by future generations. And I think that and my artwork creatively and critically explores those ideas and of trauma and the inheritance of that.
So while you're creating an artistic piece, subconsciously or consciously, you are always reminded, or you think about your roots and your country.
Yeah, I think as an artist, you do bring in a lot of your identity as an artist and as a researcher. Both, I think you do bring in a lot of your identity into your work, and it does influence the work that you have, and that can always be a good thing as well, and enriches your work, I think, and it really enriches and adds another layer to your work.
Hold on to that thought, because I want to know a little bit more about your other paintings. Dear viewers, stay tuned. We will be right back, and we'll have a chat, continue our chat with Mehdia on the other paintings that she has displayed here. Welcome back, viewers. You're watching Asian Vibes, and my guest is Mehdia Hassan from Afghanistan, but now residing in Thunder Bay. Mehdia, do tell us a little bit more about your paintings. I see that your paintings, your roots are the central character, central figure in most of your paintings. So, and I'm really keen to know more about it.
Yeah. So these two are my paintings here. I'll start with that one, which is a special piece to me. It's called, the writing on top very roughly translates to "such wonderful weather that Kabul has." So in Dari, it's Ajab Abwa Darat Kabul, and it's a lyric from an Afghan song from the 80s.
So you have written, so it's your work, okay.
And so I wrote that on the top because I was very inspired by that song, and that song describes the beauty of the city of Kabul and just the amazing the lights of the city during sunset, the scenery, the landscapes, and I was very inspired and amazed by that because I've never been to Afghanistan, and the song allows me to imagine what it would be like to go for the very first time, and right away I was kind of every time I hear it, like I'm always transported to me kind of being there. It kind of feels like I'm there, even though I've never been. And there's this very deep nostalgic feeling. I think it's of that time of before the war. And there's peace and stability, and so that song allowed me to imagine myself visiting there. And I think that when I do go back, when I do go and visit for the first time, I think those Canadian values and that Canadian part of my identity as well is going to shape and the way that I experience it, and so allowed me to make sense of like that Afghan Canadian identity, that hyphenated identity.
And you were talking of music. What kind of music is popular in Afghanistan?
Well, there are many different genres, and there's the Afghan traditional music, which includes the instrument of the rabab, and so that's a traditional instrument, one of the national instruments of Afghanistan.
Rabab.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's very beautiful.
It's a string instrument, or
yes.
Is it a okay?
Yeah,
it's a string instrument.
It's a string instrument, and it's made from the wood of a mulberry tree, so it has a special, unique sound because of that, and it's really beautiful and really amazing.
It reminds me something of maybe a santur.
Maybe,
which is played in the
mountain
parts of our country.
Right. Very ancient instrument. Yeah.
All right. So this is you, I presume.
Yeah, that's me in my traditional clothes. I actually own another dress that looks quite similar to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see the dynamic shapes and forms of the mountains here.
So those are the Pahman Mountains, and that is the Kabul River. And then there's like famous shrines and mosques as well near the city. And yeah, it's just that the city of Kabul and its beauty.
And there's lots of greenery there too. There's lavish greenery out there.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this painting, Klaus.
Yeah, so this painting is one of my favorites. It's called Three Cities, and it's really kind of, in a sense, it's a self-portrait, I think, because it kind of goes through like the different cities. The city of Kabul, which is at the bottom.
And I see the roots there.
The roots, yeah. And so if you can see, not only is that soil, but it's also the soil from the nourishment, where I get my nourishment from, like, and also it's the mountains, and so it really highlighting migration and travel and my roots that are golden and strong and influential in shaping who I am today. And then there's me, who has been born and lived in Toronto my whole life, almost, and very
blossoming against concrete landscape.
Yeah, very urban setting that I've been brought up in, and in contrasting with kind of slowly growing into Thunder Bay and coming here, and I was just so drawn to the landscapes here, and just Mount McKay and Sleeping Giant, and
it's beautiful.
And just that landscape, and I'm so excited to keep exploring that here, and the nature trails and the parks here are beautiful, and then kind of establishing my ground here and my roots here, and I think, and in a sense, I think I'm also those birds, because I'm always going back and forth, and I'm either in Toronto, I'm either in Thunder Bay, and just always in migration. That idea of migration, I think, just not only my migration story, I think, but also my parents and my ancestors who immigrated here and came to Toronto. I think those are the birds at the bottom, and the birds at the top are me.
Beautiful journey, beautiful story, beautiful journey through your paint.
Yeah, very special to me.
Yeah. So what's next? What are there any projects that you are working on currently, or are you participating in an exhibition or anything?
Yeah, so I'm very excited about going to be speaking at a conference soon about my painting Wounds over here.
So this painting in particular?
Yeah, so
okay.
Presenting that, and also my paper about it, and kind of that creative and critical exploration I was talking about earlier about, what does it mean to heal, and how can we heal that there's that sense of collective trauma that, and that all those kinds of details about that, and just the kind of that Afghan Canadian identity. What does it mean to be a vulnerable
Something
person?
written here too?
That's my name in Farsi,
okay.
actually.
Okay.
So that really highlights my identity. And then there's that shape of the geographical shape of Afghanistan.
And then this is talking about any kinship or communal.
Yeah, and also that sense of intergenerational trauma and that sense of community, and there's sometimes pressures to conform, and just about healing and what does it mean to heal? Because I think if you were to imagine commemorative tattoos as wounds, then if these wounds were to heal, then and the Afghan identity is so deeply associated with those wounds and with that trauma, and so would it change the Afghan identity? Would it change what it means to be an Afghan, because it's so deeply ingrained and rooted, and that sense of like physical trauma and figurative trauma as well, like symbolic trauma, because of like wounds being like a physical trauma on the skin, but then also that symbolic meaning of the emotional trauma as well.
Wish you all the very, very best for your conference. I mean, that's a lot of message that you are conveying. As I'm really impressed, but very fascinated with your passion and the way you are trying to connect with your roots through your art form, and that fascination, that passion is really, really very impressive.
Thank you so much.
A lot of us who are away from home, we should be looking into going back to our roots as well, treasuring those, in fact. Thank you so much, and here is wishing you all the very, very best for all your future.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Future work.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you, viewers, for joining us on this edition of Asian Vibes. Till we meet again, stay well.